Chinese President Xi Jinping is due to visit Cairo later this week. Ahead of his visit, Yasser Hakim met with Ashraf Naguib, who of course is the founder and CEO of Global Trade Matters. Now, GTM is the first and leading economic think tank in the private sector in Egypt. It was established to study the private sector's business environment and of course help convey their problems and challenges to the government. Now, from his headquarters, Naguib talked about what's expected of the upcoming visit by the Chinese president.
Mr. Ashraf Naguib, thank you for joining us here on CCTV. The Chinese president is visiting Cairo. What is expected out of these meetings here with Egyptian officials?
Chinese president hasn't visited Egypt in 12 years, so we can say this is a very large step towards really solidifying the relationships between Egypt and China. Collaboration between Egypt and China on the African continent will not just benefit both nations, but will benefit the continent at large. And I think that's where the results of the meeting will be divided between what we were going to be doing together in terms of infrastructure development, education development, energy development, which China is helping us with right now, in addition to how can we both approach Africa together in harmony for the benefit of the continent.
How do you foresee the Egyptian-Chinese economic relations in the future?
We believe the Chinese are going to play an extremely important role, not just in the upgrading and enhancing of Egyptian and Chinese private sector interactions, but also in enhancing the competitiveness advantage of Egypt, whether it is in the Suez Canal region, whether it's in the Western Desert, whether it is in the Nile Valley and the Delta. So I think they're going to play a major role in private sector enterprises, public-private partnerships, infrastructure projects, large and small, and also within our foreign trade within the region of Africa, or the continent of Africa.
As a think tank, you are linking the private sector and its challenges with the public and the officials in the government. What are the main challenges that are facing the private sector that need to be addressed by the government?
Now, post two revolutions in less than 3 years, Egypt is still suffering on how to balance between what we call the social aspect of a nation and an economic aspect of the nation. And the reason why we've been so slow in the pace of reform is because our leadership is very prudent towards the majority of the Egyptians, that about 49% of them still live under the poverty rate. So you have to stop and think about that portion of the population before thinking about creating a space program, for example. We're between a rock and a hard place where we require what is called shock therapy approach towards economic reform, but also have to be socially responsible by downgrading that pace and still looking and approaching the economy within the social context. Now, for businesses, that's a major risk for them. That is the hindering issue that a lot of the foreign investors are seeing, that there isn't 100% drive for free market economics in Egypt at this point. There is still a very centralized regulatory approach from the government.
What is there to learn from the Chinese experience in the economy and developing the business environment?
Now, in the context of a global economy, investors are looking for free markets, and that's what it's called. It's free market economics, which obviously would completely subscribe to the approach of Milton Friedman of the balance between, state enterprises and state intervention versus having, a free market economic system. And you can balance that. And China is a great example of exactly how you can have a more centralized government that actually regulates a very open free market economy. And we can learn a lot towards our approach of our economic policy formulation from China, where we can balance between poverty and growth and really manage our system.